This episode of That's What G Said podcast is brought to you by CindyCarava.com, full service realtor. Cindy Carava, visit CindyCarava.com for all of your real estate needs. And SarahCandles.com. If you're looking for a great candle, check out SarahCandles.com. Over 25 different scents. Use the promo code GINO. It'll get you 10% off your purchase. On this episode, we're going to dive into the NCAA title game. LSU with the victory. Are they one of the greatest college football teams of all time? We're going to hit the NFL Divisional round recaps. We'll recap those 4 games. Interview with Jason Beem. It is Beemie Awards week on Friday, so we're going to talk to the man who created the Beemie Awards, and then we will discuss some Sam Houston for Wednesday, January the 15th. I have an early pick 4 and a late pick 4, some plays throughout the cards, and then we'll read through your Facebook and your Twitter posts, going over your best plays over the next few days. Kick back and enjoy this episode of That's What G Said.
So you want your daily dose of sports and pop culture? Well, I know a guy named G who gives it to you good. That's what G said. From Game of Thrones and Stranger Things to DDTs and chicken wings and banking on a long shot to close. Will the Lakers bounce back? Did USC upset them? Will the Dodgers hop on all who oppose? It's gotta be our year. It's gotta be our year. It's gotta be our fucking year. That's what G said.
January 14th, 2020. You are listening to another episode of That's What G Said podcast. It's Tuesday as I'm recording this. I'm out in Dallas, Texas. Made the trip with Stephanie and with Milo to visit family. So Milo had to come visit Grandpa for the first time. Uncle gets to visit some of Stephanie's side of the family and some of her friends over the next few days. I was a little nervous traveling with an infant, but I asked her some help on social media. I posted, if anybody have any tips, and everybody was kind of saying, you know what, up until about a year, it's a lot easier than when you have an infant that's like a year to 4 years old, because then they kind of know what's going on a little bit more. Milo's pretty well behaved. I just want to keep knocking on wood. I hate saying it out loud because every time I do, I just don't want to jinx it. But he loves the car seat and he likes the stroller a lot. So what's nice is that we have one of those car seats that you put from the car seat and then you hook it right into the stroller and you take it out of the car. And so we can take him a lot of places. Like we can go out to dinner and he'll just sit there in the stroller, usually fall asleep. We can go on walks all over the place. When we drive, to my parents' house, which is about half an hour, 45 minutes away, back and forth, he's usually really good. So I wasn't too worried about him, but when an airport, all these new sites, everything for the first time, you just don't know. But he was awesome. I mean, he was great. He didn't get fussy really the entire time. We had an amazing stewardess who, she saw us come in and sit down in the back, and so what she ended up doing was she pretended like she was sitting down in the back next to us, and she's kind of like, I'll take care of you guys. So that way we didn't have an extra person sitting in our row, so we were able to kind of stretch out a little bit, put some stuff on the other seat, which made it really nice. We didn't want to. The only thing that happens in a situation like this is you don't want to upset somebody else. You don't want to have a baby that's crying on the plane or that's being messy, and then you can tell that people are annoyed with you. But we didn't have to run into that issue, so it was a real quick, pain-free flight. It was nice too. Dallas is only 2.5 hours from LA. And we didn't have to it was just a straight through flight. We didn't have to do any layovers or make any stops. So all worked out well, and we'll be here in Dallas for the next week, visiting some family. Some information just came out about the Houston Astros and the cheating, and their manager and their general manager were suspended from baseball for a year. And then immediately afterwards, the Astros fired both of them. And they basically they admitted that they did cheat throughout 2017 into 2018, throughout the 2017 World Series where they beat the Dodgers. And so I'm obviously really frustrated as a Dodger fan. I'm not going to go too deep into this only because they're still investigating the Red Sox. So I want to wait a little bit to find out what happens with the Red Sox, and then we can kind of discuss everything, what the penalties were for the Astros, what the penalties were for the Red Sox, who got it worse, back and forth. No players get suspended. It was kind of hard because players have moved on to other teams. They don't really know exactly which players were heavy in orchestrating this, but I think what MLB did was they basically used the players, and they said, hey, you know what, we're not going to suspend any of you, but we need to find out what happened here. So they basically made a deal with the players, hey, we won't suspend any of you, but you have to let us know what really happened. I'm frustrated, obviously. I don't want to have a Dodger World Series parade, but I don't think that the Astros should be considered your World Series champions. I think and if the same thing happens with the Red Sox, I think those 2 years there just should be no champ. I wouldn't feel good about, oh yeah, the Dodgers are the World Series champs now. Like, you have to win those games, right? But the Astros are not deserving of being the World Series winners in 2017. LSU 42, Clemson 25. LSU, after their national championship win, is now 15-0, and this is one of the greatest college football teams we've ever seen. They have the Heisman Trophy winner, who will likely be your number 1 overall pick in the NFL. They beat a Clemson team that has won 25 games in a row the last couple of years. Trevor Lawrence has never lost a game as a starter, their quarterback. He was 25-0. This was just a good football game between two good teams, and we saw the LSU defense step up a little bit because LSU got punched in the mouth early. They were not used to being down early, and you could tell they weren't really moving the ball well. Clemson was doing a good job of pinning them back and forcing tough field position for LSU, and LSU was down 17-7. But within 5 minutes of game time, all of a sudden LSU is up 21-17, and then it's 28-17 before the half. Trevor Lawrence had his worst game of the year. He had his worst passer rating. He was 18 for 37, 234 yards. He just wasn't quite himself. He played against a tough LSU defense that really just stepped up. And when we thought about LSU all throughout the year, we didn't think of them as a defensive juggernaut. We thought this was a team that could go up and down and score, but that you might be able to beat them because they may be a little weak defensively. That just was not the case. Joe Burrow, 5 touchdown passes, the most in a college football or BCS title game. He also had a rushing touchdown. This is the 4th national championship for LSU. Burrow was the first major college quarterback to throw for 60 touchdown passes in a season. LSU put up 269 yards of offense in the second quarter and 628 total yards with 6 touchdowns. And in the last 3 games of the year, they beat Georgia, Oklahoma, and Clemson, and a combined 142-63 against 3 really tough opponents. LSU even had 11 penalties for 118 yards. There was actually a late penalty in the game that might have given Clemson like a late chance to get back into the game. Clemson should have scored a touchdown, and they called an offensive pass interference with like 11:09 left in the game. They were down 42-25, and it was just a really bad call. It cost Clemson a touchdown. Honestly, what happened in this game, it was the second and the third quarter and then the start of the fourth, and LSU was just better. Clemson just had no answer for them. And when you watched college football all throughout the season, it really felt like LSU was the best team this year. And congratulations to Coach O. As a bitter USC Trojan fan, Coach O wanted to be the head coach of USC. If you've seen that interview out there, he's crying in tears. He says it was one of the most difficult days of his life when he found out he wasn't going to be the head coach of USC after the interim title. And since then, USC's head coaches Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin, and Clay Helton. So they've done a great job. I mean, I love Coach O. He's awesome. He deserves this. He's earned it. And congratulations to the LSU fans and the LSU athletic department, because they found their guy and they built around him. It wasn't like Coach O came in and won right off the bat. He needed to get his recruits in, and he was able to build a coaching staff around with some excellent coaches. Like, this basically is like an NFL coaching staff. And they're going to go down as one of the better college football teams that we've ever seen. They deserve to be. LSU, your national champion. Before we get into the NFL, let's talk a little bit about Sarah Candle Company, sarahcandles.com. Their goal, to create a candle 100% natural, clean burning, and of the highest quality that everyone can enjoy. Here's why Sarah Candles are the best. All natural soy wax, free from the toxins found in paraffin wax, which is used by other leading brands. All natural soy wax will actually hold your scent better and will burn up to 50% longer than the traditional paraffin wax candle. 100% lead-free cotton wicks in completely natural scents. They're made in micro batches and they're hand-poured to ensure the highest quality. 100% locally sourced and handcrafted in the USA. This is a small business. If you like supporting small businesses, give Sarah Candle Company a look. They do everything right out of Temple City. I know Tyler Herringer well. You heard him on my show last week. We interviewed him. We talked all about how he created this company. 25 different scents available, 3 different sizes, fragrance oils that are infused with natural essential oils, the best ingredients, quality packaging, affordable prices, longer burning, none of those toxins or carcinogens or pollutants that are present in the paraffin wax. Created by people that love candles, started out experimenting, trying to create that perfect candle, and now they've blossomed into Sarah Candle Company. And through their research, they were able to discover the benefit of the all-natural soy wax. They have instructions and details on how to keep your candle clean and ensure the perfect burn. Make sure to read those because you want to keep it safe when you have a flame around. And we can get you a little bonus. Right now, if you use the promo code GINO, you get 10% off your purchase. Right now, great gift. Valentine's Day is coming up. Maybe you have a birthday for someone. Maybe you're late on some Christmas gifts for folks, or you just want to be nice and get a little present for a friend or a family member. SarahCandles.com, CERA candles.com. Use the promo code GINO. 4 games this past weekend, divisional round, and the divisional round wasn't nearly as good as the wild card round. And in game 1, what was frustrating is we just had a couple teams that really no-showed, like the Vikings. Vikings San Francisco, 49ers 27, Vikings 10. On the Vikings' second possession, they scored a touchdown, and they had a drive where 6 of the 8 plays were passes, 73 yards, and a touchdown. It was 7-7 then. The 49ers were 2 for 2 to start in the red zone, and they ranked towards the middle, like the bottom of the middle as far as red zone scoring in the regular season. So to put 2 in right off the bat, that's already a positive sign. At halftime, Dalvin Cook had 10 touches for 19 yards, but it was only 14-10 at the half. It felt like the 49ers were just beating the crap out of the Giants, or out of the Vikings, but the game was close, and really the 49ers weren't playing that well. It was just more of really head-scratching scheme for Minnesota, who just kept running right up the middle, right up the gut, right up the gut, right up the gut. In the first half, 17 plays that were not sacks. 11 of them involved the running back, 7 running back runs at 1.8 yards per carry, and 4 running back targets at 2.0 yards per attempt. The 49ers have the second best pass defense against running backs. You have to know that. You have to try to get a little bit more creative. The 49ers are also a team that is vulnerable to runs that attack the left end. Yet the Vikings go right up the middle. They only had 7 total first downs compared to the 21 for San Francisco. The first drive of the second half, it's 17-10. And the Vikings make 0 adjustments. First down, run, get nothing. Second down, run, get nothing. And then it's third down and long, and it's an obvious passing down, and then there's an interception. Now all of a sudden, you're down 24-10, and you've only had 84 total yards compared to 249 at this point for San Francisco. The rushing yards at this point was 132 to San Francisco to 15 for the Vikings, and San Francisco had 20 first downs compared to the Vikings' 4 at this point. Look at the Vikings' drive up to this point. 3 plays, 2 yards, and a punt. 7 plays, 79 yards, and a touchdown. 3 plays, negative 2 yards, and a punt. 3 plays, 4 yards, punt. 6 plays, 8 yards, field goal. That was when they got a turnover. Still couldn't punch it in. 3 plays, 1 yard, interception. They lose their starting right tackle, the Vikings, early in the game, and then they couldn't protect Cousins, and they just couldn't get anything going. What makes me nervous about the 49ers is that they're good, but if they played a team in this game who had played a little bit better, this would have been a much closer game. Jimmy G interception at the end of the half gives the Vikings a field goal, and they just couldn't take advantage. And then after that, here's the difference, and why San Francisco has been a good team all year, and this is the difference between like a really good team or just an okay team. They make adjustments. The coaching staff made adjustments. So Jimmy G was not playing great, right? I don't think he was playing miserable, but he made a bad throw that could have ended up costing them the game if this was a tighter game. So what did the San Francisco 49ers coaching staff do? Okay, let's make some adjustments. What's working for us? We're running the ball right at them. They run 16 times compared to 3 passes the rest of the game after that Jimmy G interception. Just huge adjustments. They take out the cornerback that Diggs beat early on for the long touchdown. So now they make an adjustment to how they're running the offense. They make a defensive adjustment. Boom. That's what a good coach and a good coaching staff does. And that's what the 49ers did. And I was... It almost felt, when I was watching this game, like it was in an NBA, a lot of times we see teams that have back-to-backs or they have like a back-to-back on the road against a couple tough teams. And if you win that first night, a lot of times it'll be like, oh, we thought we might lose both of these games. Okay, the second night of the back-to-back, we're going to sit 1 or 2 of our players. We're going to mail it in. We're basically happy to come home with a split on the road trip. That's what it felt like with the Vikings. There were no sense of urgency even when they were down. They didn't change things up a little bit. It was just a conservative game. And if you're the underdog and you have to go on the road and play a really good team, you have to expect that you got to get a little creative. You have to get outside the box a little bit. You can't just be really predictable and think you're going to be able to beat a team like the 49ers just running right up the gut at them. The 49ers got a couple players back that were huge. Quan Alexander, D Ford, who had 3 pressures on 17 pass rushes. They were healthier for the first time in a while. We saw that 49ers D struggled down the stretch when they played good teams, but they weren't healthy. And they've been one of the best teams all year long. You just wonder why the Vikings didn't try to at least take more deep shots. Midway through the fourth quarter, Cousins was 6 for 6 for 18 yards on play action. They just couldn't run the ball well enough to really establish the play action. So then at that point, you have to just start passing the ball because that's where you can. Like the 49ers aren't bad. They have a great defense, but they can be had against the pass. Better than trying to run it right up the gut at them. Unfortunately, Sherrills, who was returning kicks for Minnesota, bobbled multiple kicks. One of them he dropped and ends up giving the 49ers a field goal. After scoring on that 41-yard touchdown pass to Diggs, the Vikings attempted 1 more deep pass all throughout the game. We've seen the 49ers play well. They can play much better than this. Like, as a Vikings fan, I would be upset thinking, you know what, we didn't even run into a 49ers team that was firing on all cylinders. They can play much better than they did. Just zero sense of urgency when they were down, 24-10. And it kind of felt the same with the Ravens game we're going to talk about in a minute. Both the 49ers and the Vikings had 2 turnovers, but the 49ers dominated the time of possession. 38 minutes and 27 seconds to 21 minutes and 33 seconds for the Vikes. And look at the rushing attempts. The 49ers had 47 rushing attempts compared to the 10 for the Vikings. And you say, Gino, I thought you said the Vikings were being predictable and running it right up the gut. Well, they were. They were very predictable. Unfortunately, they didn't even have a lot of plays, period, because they couldn't move the ball. They only got 7 first downs. The drive after the interception, where Cousins gets intercepted, 49ers ran the ball 8 straight times and scored a touchdown, and basically they put them away there. They got up by 14. It's funny. When they were down by 14, it felt like the game was over, but it didn't ever feel like that Chiefs game was over, even when they were down 24-0. I mean, I thought it was because it's going to be tough to come back from a playoff game like that, but this game just felt, you see a 17-point margin of victory. It just felt like more than that because Minnesota was just unable to do anything, and you didn't get the feeling like they were going to try to make an adjustment. San Francisco sacked them 6 times. Vikings were 2 for 12 on third down. They had 147 total yards and only 3.3 yards per play. Then after the game, Zimmer kind of took a shot at Cousins, where he said that they did call some deep shots, but for whatever reason, they didn't get done. Richard Sherman shutting down half the field, like usual. I mean, Dalvin Cook, he had 6 receptions for 8 yards. That's the lowest total ever for someone who's had 6 receptions in a game. Thielen didn't look good in here. One of the interceptions might have been his fault because he didn't continue his route. He looked hurt, banged up, injured. He just did not look good. And it was a short week for the Vikings. They played Sunday against New Orleans last week. Then they have to travel to San Francisco this week and play on Saturday after playing on Sunday last week. That's not easy, but I was just really disappointed in the effort. If you would have told me that the 49ers are going to win by 17, I wouldn't have been surprised. But if you would have told me that you were just going to get a really lackluster effort overall throughout the game from the Vikings, I would have been a little surprised. They played really, really well last week, and their ceiling is they're a better team than they showed against the 49ers. Now, this has happened throughout the year with the 49ers where teams have kind of come in and played against them, and those teams haven't played well. Now, I will say this. At least part of that is because of the 49ers, their game plan, their schemes, how they attack you. I think some of it in a small sample size, right? You can just sometimes get a little bit lucky. I don't even want to say lucky because it's not like the 49ers are sitting there, hoping for money to drop from the heavens. They're prepared. They do everything that they're supposed to do, and the other teams just don't come with like a max effort game. So it's been hard for me throughout the season to gauge the 49ers, but they keep doing this to good teams, and we'll see. Next week they're going to be playing one of the teams that had a horrendous game against them when they played, and that's the Green Bay Packers. Now, I don't think Green Bay is as bad as they played against the 49ers. I do think the 49ers are a better team overall. They have a better defense, but we'll see if there are going to be any adjustments or what changes next week. And if the Packers can come and just play a better game, win or lose, I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers kick the crap out of them. I just expect Green Bay to show up a little bit more this week than when we saw when they got their butts kicked by San Francisco earlier this year. Big upset in the Titans-Baltimore game. Titans 28, Ravens 12. MVP Lamar Jackson and an all-time regular season team in the Baltimore Ravens who won 12 games in a row. We're not talking about some team that just kind of got hot. This has been a really good football team. They've run the ball well. Lamar was, and he's not just some running gimmick. He led the league in touchdown passes. And we're talking about a team that's good on special teams. They have a good defense. They have a good lines. They're a very well-built, well-balanced team, good coaching staff, and they just got beat up. They looked a little bit shell-shocked. They had some drops early. Really, it started on the first drive for Baltimore when they were driving, ball off Andrews' fingertips, ends up an interception. So let's go through some of the team stats. When you look at this box score, it's going to be one of the weirder box scores you'll ever see. First downs, Baltimore had 29, Tennessee had 15. Third downs, Baltimore was 11 for 18, Tennessee was 7 for 13. But fourth down, Baltimore was 0 for 4. That's the whole game. Lamar looked off. He hadn't played in 3 weeks. They had 6 wide receiver drops, 6 pass catcher drops. Baltimore ran 92 total plays to Tennessee's 53. They had 530 total yards to Tennessee's 300. They even had more yards per play, 5.8 yards per play to Tennessee's 5.7. They had more yards per rush, 6.4 yards per rush to Tennessee's 5.9. They were just beat by themselves. The drops, the turnovers, and they couldn't get fourth down when they needed a fourth and short. The Ravens 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions. Lamar lost a fumble, and they were 0 for 2 on 4th and 1. They were 8 for 8 on 4th and 1 throughout the year. All of the Tennessee Titans' 28 points came on turnovers, off Ravens turnovers, or turnovers on downs, so turnovers. Baltimore interception off Andrews' hands. They're up 7-0. They stop Baltimore on 4th and 1. Next play, a 45-yard touchdown pass. All of a sudden, it's 14-0, and you've got Derrick Henry and his ability to run the ball. It's 14-6 at half. Baltimore still, they weren't down or done early. They had many chances to come back from this game. They get the ball to start the second half. They get stopped on a 4th and 1 at the 18, and then Tennessee drives and scores a touchdown. All of a sudden, it's 21-16. You had a chance to go in and tie the game or make it a 1 or 2 point game, and now all of a sudden, you're down 21-6. And really, then the game's over. Tannehill was 8 for 15 passing for a total of 83 yards. In the second half, he was 1 for 4 for 9 yards. They only attempted 4 passes, completed 1 in the second half. This is from the Next Gen Stats via Will Brinson. Derrick Henry had 124 yards rushing on plays when Baltimore had 8 or more in the box. Baltimore's doing everything they can to try to stop him, and he just runs right through them. Just look like a man amongst boys. The Ravens had drives that ended at the Titans 36, 31, 4, 18, 31, 15, 16, and 12, and they scored 12 total points. They were 0 for 4 on fourth down, they kicked 2 field goals, and they had 2 turnovers. It was the first time since week 4 and the second time all season that the Ravens were trailing after the first quarter. And early in the second half, the Titans were 3 for 3 in the red zone, and the Ravens were 0 for 2 in the red zone and 0 for 2 on fourth down. When you look at the teams who have been high-scoring regular season teams throughout, what's crazy about this? The top 13 scoring teams in the Super Bowl era in points per game, none of them won the Super Bowl. The Ravens were number 12 with 33.2 points per game. The Titans only had a 45-yard drive and an 81-yard drive, and then all of their other drives were 35 yards or less. They weren't moving the ball at all. They just capitalized. They played good defense. Well, let's strike that. They were running the ball fine, but they weren't really even trying to go up and down. They were just playing good defense and letting Baltimore gotta shoot themselves in the foot. Lamar is the first quarterback ever to have 300 yards passing and 100-plus yards rushing in a playoff game. And they lost. And they didn't even lose. It wasn't close. The Titans are just the 4th team to win multiple playoff games in the same postseason with 100 or fewer yards passing. The other 3 teams all won the Super Bowl. Miami in 1972 and 1973, Pittsburgh in 1974. The Titans were following the script of what the Bills did to try to slow down Lamar, but they said, you know what, Buffalo did really well, but they just couldn't score enough to beat them. A.J. Brown, stud wide receiver, he's only had 2 receptions for 13 yards total in 2 games. And so now we're going to hear all the, how good is Lamar? Is Lamar overrated? Can he be the type of quarterback to win games? Keep in mind, right, this isn't to me like a running, passing thing. This is just a young player. This is a stat from Chris Long. It took Drew Brees 6 years to get his first playoff win. It took Peyton Manning 6 years to get his first playoff win. He was 0 for 3 in his first 3 playoff games. Jim Kelly didn't win a playoff game till his 6th year. Aaron Rodgers didn't win a playoff game till his 6th year. John Elway was 0 for 2, and then he won a playoff game in his 4th year. McNair didn't win a playoff game till his 5th year. Randall Cunningham, 8th year. Matt Ryan was 0 for 3 in his first 3 playoff games. So you don't just win automatically, right? We all want to get real hard on Lamar and say, oh, running quarterback, it's never going to work. Well, he's a passing quarterback too. He made some great throws. He made some bad throws. He was a little bit off, and he had some wide receiver drops, and he just, the 4th downs. 4th and 1, you get stopped. That's the entire game. Titans 28, Ravens 12. This Kansas City-Houston game in the Sunday morning game was one of the crazier football games I can ever remember. Kansas City was down 24-0 early on. Just tons and tons of early drops. It was a 3rd and 6 to Kelsey, he dropped. A 3rd and 6 to Robinson, he dropped. Those would have both been first downs. Houston gets a touchdown right off the bat to Stills. They get a blocked punt touchdown. They're up 14-0 with 10 minutes left to go in the first quarter. Both teams punted. KC then muffs a punt. It sets up a 1st and goal from the 6. 2 plays later, it is 21-0 Texans with 1:21 left to go in the first quarter. And then with 10:54 left to go in the second quarter, Houston has the ball. It's 4th and 1 at the Kansas City 13. They have the opportunity to put their foot on their throat right there and probably put this game away. But at the 4th and 1, they end up kicking a field goal. Now they're up 24-0. I think you go for it there. I think you go for it. You try to get up 28-0. You have to assume that this Kansas City team is going to score some points. You probably are still thinking, hey, they're going to get to 25 or 30. We have to get to 30. And obviously getting to 30 wasn't nearly enough for Houston. But Kansas City I think felt very, very good that Houston kicks a field goal there. So it's 24-0. Kansas City then gets a nice kick return. 2 plays later, a touchdown. And now it's 24-7 with 9:55 left to go in the quarter, in the second half, in the first half, second quarter. Houston then fake punts from their own 31. If you're not going to go for it on 4th and 1, but then you're going to get aggressive with a fake punt call, that is not consistent at all. This is why people get mad at Bill O'Brien and don't think he's a very good coach, because he's just not. There's no, like, who is he as a coach? What is his identity? What is their team's identity? So you fake the punt, you don't get it, and 3 plays later, Kansas City scores a touchdown. Now it's 24-14 with 8:05 left in the second quarter. It's taken 2.5 minutes to get 2 scores for Kansas City. Then the Texans fumble the kickoff return. Kansas City recovers at the 6. 3 plays later, touchdown, 24-21 with 6:31 left in the second quarter. Texans punt. KC gets the ball, goes 8 plays, 90 yards. Now they're up 28-24 with 44 seconds left in the half. This is a Warren Sharp stat. Teams trailing by 21 points after the first quarter are 8-135 in the regular season and 0-6 in the playoffs. Well, now they're 1-6. Chiefs were 2-0 this year when the opponent takes the lead of 10-plus points in the first quarter. Well, they were down by 24. This was the first time in history where a team led by more than 21 points after the first quarter and trailed at halftime. Final score of this game was 51-31. Kansas City was 7 of 8 in the red zone. They outscored Houston 28-0 in the second quarter, and they scored 41 consecutive points. This was the first team in NFL history to win a playoff game by 20 after trailing by 20. And then the Green Bay-Seattle game. Doesn't this game just feel like how Green Bay won most of their games this year? 28-23. They played well early, couple scores, get up, and then they just kind of, they run the ball, they let you kind of get back into the game, they never really blow a lot of teams out, but what ended up happening here was Aaron Rodgers just needed to make a play or two down the stretch, and that's what happened. I liked the focus of Green Bay and LaFleur on their best players, Adams and Jones. Adams had 8 receptions for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. You got to get the ball to Jones, too. So the Packers are up 21-3 early. Remember, 5 years ago, they were up 16-0 against the Seahawks at the half, and they lost that game 28-22. And it's been 9 years since Aaron Rodgers was in the Super Bowl. With 9:33 left in the game, it's 28-23. Seattle misses the 2-point conversion, so they can't cut it to a field goal. With 4:54 left, Seattle gets the ball on their own 22. And they end up having to punt. Green Bay had 3 drives for touchdowns of 75 yards in the first 3 quarters. It was all about Jones and Adams. On third downs, Green Bay was 7 for 8, 125 yards with a touchdown and a sack. Green Bay scored on their first drive, then both teams punted twice. Seattle's second drive, run, punt. I mean, we talk about the Vikings being predictable. The difference between the Vikings and the Seahawks is the Seahawks have a quarterback like Russell Wilson who can really use his legs and who can really beat you running the ball. And Cousins can run a little too, but not like Wilson. And they just never let Wilson start running until later in the game. I don't know if it's the game plan. I don't know if it's, why not call a few more runs for him early on in the game when you know you have Marshawn Lynch right now and Homer. Marshawn Lynch he's not in shape and he's not run the ball well at all. He had 12 carries for 26 yards. Homer had 3 carries for 13 yards. He was way better than Lynch when he was in the game. It's predictable. You know what Seattle's going to do. They're going to try to run the ball. And then late, they're going to try to let Wilson make a play or two. But sometimes you have to take the handcuffs off him earlier, and you have to let him try to make those plays earlier in the game. So Seattle's second drive, run, and then punt. Their third drive, they kicked a field goal. Their fourth drive, they missed a field goal. All of a sudden, they're down 21-3. And then in the second half, by necessity because you're down by, you're down 3 scores. Wilson runs for 22 yards, a 5-yard run, an 11-yard scramble, a 1-yard scramble, a 9-yard run. Scored touchdowns on their first 3 drives, Seattle did. But the stubborn running the ball, Wilson, when he ran, had 7 carries for 64 yards. How about Tyler Lockett, who had 9 receptions for 136 yards and a touchdown? Why not look for him more than try to feed him when he's been open all game? And then Pete Carroll, again, who was an excellent coach for USC, but every year, he's a great leader, he's a great, very enthusiastic, he can motivate you, but as far as the X's and O's and the in-game decisions are, he's just not very good. It's 4th and 11 with 2:41 left in the game. Seattle has the ball on their own 36. They're down by 5, and they punt. You have to go for it there. You don't know if you're going to get the ball back with 2:41 left in the game. And let's say you go for the 4th and 11 and you don't get it. All you have to do is force a field goal, and you're still down by 8. You're still down by 1 score. It's still a 1-possession game. Instead, you kick the ball and you never get it back. You punt. And Green Bay has to make 2 plays. It's 3rd down. They pick up a 3rd and 8 with a 22-yard pass to Adams. And then it was a 3rd and 9 with the 9-yard pass to Jimmy Graham, which, let's be honest, that was a terrible spot. It did not look like it was a first down. And I think Green Bay should have probably had to punt the ball back to Seattle, so maybe it works. But you can't be at the mercy. You can trust your defense, but you don't want to be at the mercy of the other team. You want to give yourself an opportunity to win the game, and I think you have to go for it there, even though it's 4th and 11 and you're on your own 36, just because all you got to do is stop. You get a stop, you force a field goal, and you're going to get the ball back. Green Bay 28, Seattle 23. We will break down the conference championship games later this week, and we will tell you which sides we lean, and we'll do a deep dive on 49ers Packers and on Chiefs Titans, the Final Four. Before we get into the interview with Jason Beem, I want to let you know about Thrive Fantasy, new daily fantasy app for prop bets. They are giving you just kind of a different spin on DFS. Instead of the salary cap, you're building your lineup around a list of prop bets. So for each contest, you have to choose 10 of the 20 prop bets plus 2 in case of emergency picks that protect you from any late scratches or postponed games. If you use the promo code GINO and you deposit 10, you're going to get 10 right back. So use the promo code GINO, make a deposit of $10, and then you'll get a $10 bonus credit right back in your account. And then you'll have $20 to mess around, check out some of the contests, see if you like them. You'll see me in there. I'm playing all the time under the name That's What G Said. I've won a few contests, and so I always like to check how new sites are. When you win money, can you withdraw it? Sure, you can put it right into your PayPal or right into your account. It was very simple. It was very easy. Thrive Fantasy. Go download the app. Use the promo code GINO. You'll get a little $10 bonus credit when you deposit $10. Up next, it is Jason Beem. Good buddy Jason Beem. We're going to talk all about the Beemies, which are on Friday, January the 17th. And so for all the good information, all the specifics, listen in as we talk about the Beemies and we talk about the last few years for Jason, as he's had an incredible 2019, calling races all over the place. Jason Beem on That's What G Said. Okay, so when it's the holiday time of the year, it's usually Christmas and then New Year's and all sorts of different celebrations going on. And that means the Beemie Awards are going to be right on that list. Very happy to welcome in my good friend. And every time we talk, I'm so frustrated that we still haven't actually had an opportunity to meet in person, and sit down and hang out. We've talked so many times throughout the years now. Jason Beem, welcoming in on to That's What G Said podcast. How you doing, buddy?
Gino, good. We were supposed to meet at Santa Anita one day, and you had something come up.
Yeah, I know.
And so we didn't get to. But yeah, it is a little weird. Like the internet has made it so like there's people I talk to all the time that I've never met. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, it's become really cool. Probably some of the people I talk to most are people I never met or interact with most, or at least go back and forth with the races stuff or sports stuff here and there. So okay, we had to bring you on because it's that time of year. It's time for the Beemies. So for those people out there that don't know what the Beemies are, we'll take it from the beginning. How long running now have the Beemie Awards been going? And then explain it for the folks out there who have never heard of what the Beemie Awards are, kind of from the beginning. How did it all start with you?
The explaining part's hard, because it's very, very much an inside joke.
It is,
which is always a little weird. Like at Christmas this year, somebody asked. Somehow it came up, and I was trying to explain it to like one of my aunts and my grandma, and they were looking at me like I was an insane person. They're like, "So you give awards to strangers?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "But they're real or they're not real?" I go, "Well, they're real, but it's a joke." And the best way I surmise it, I tell people, I go, it's not an award show. It's supposed to be a comedy show, and it's supposed to be a night for people to be able to follow along and laugh. And we have videos, and I just kind of feature funny tweets. And the thing I've gotten most, when I go to tracks or when I meet people is, "Oh, how do I win a Beemie?" And I go, "Well, it's not really a meritocracy kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's usually just a dumb tweet that I think is funny, and I can turn into a funny award." So, but yeah, essentially, it's just kind of a mock award show. I mean, we have a red carpet and a monologue, and we have an in memoriam video, but none of it is real. Like the in memoriam is like goofy stuff we lost. Like HRTV closed one year, so that was we lost that year. And
people that leave Twitter for a few days and then come back, things like that.
And exactly. It's a lot of goofy kind of stuff like that, and it's been really well received. The first year I did it was 2014.
Wow, that's crazy. It's been that long now.
This will be the 6th edition, and I guess I can't say annual because usually it's always been in December. And last year I went down to Gulfstream West to call races for a few weeks, and so it kind of just pushed my schedule back. So we didn't technically do one in 2018, but it was like a week into 2019. So it is the 6th straight year we've done it. And the first year we did it was the end of 2014. I had taken the announcing job at Louisiana Downs, and I was starting there January 6th or something. And so they had announced that I was going there, or my hiring or whatever, like a week before the first Beemies were going to take place. And I didn't promote it because I didn't know. I just figured 2 days out I would be, hey, I'm going to do a little award show thing on Friday, which is basically what I did. But I almost thought about not doing it because I didn't want the people at Louisiana Downs to think that they hired a goofball, which they did. But we did it that first year, and everybody seemed to like it, and then did it the second year, and it kind of exploded in terms of just interaction. I mean, it trended nationally, and it's been a fun little thing every year.
One of the reasons why I think people are drawn to it and drawn to you, and why things have gone, I think, really well for you in the last few years in particular, you're just so honest, which is great. You just don't see so many people out there nowadays that are like really transparent, and you are honest with everything from, positive stuff to negative stuff. You're very self-deprecating. You talk about your struggles. You talk about things that have been hard for you. You talk about jobs that you've, gone up for and missed on. I think, and that really gives people
that's a long list.
Well, no, it's just, it's great though, right? Because it's like you give people a chance to relate to you, and I don't think you become this real social media superstar. Honestly, what you do with your show is incredible, because what you're able to pump out with now, which used to be on the Barn when you were on the Bet America Radio Network, and now it's the Jason Beem horse racing podcast for Twin Spires. I mean, it's incredible how you're able to pump out content every single day. And what I love that what you do too is no interview, no real subject in horse racing is off limits. Like, you talk to anyone from the, every racetrack, from every position, handicappers. You talk about races, you talk about the issues, you talk about funny, different stuff. Like, what is it like for you? Like, how are you just kind of constantly monitoring social media? Are you constantly just coming up with ideas? Because that's a lot, man. I do a couple shows a week, and you're doing a show every single day, interviews, editing, putting it up, on top of now calling the races. This has got to be a ton of work for you.
Well, I don't know about a ton, but I mean, it's a job, and I'm fortunate to where I found out at some point a few years ago that I seem to be at my best in terms of happiness and contentment and all that when I'm being creative. If I'm writing or if I'm working on a show or if I'm, just doing something where I get to be creative, I just seem to feel a little bit more of a fulfilled existence. And so to be able to have a job with Twin Spires where I get to do that every day is, for me, it's very rewarding. And it's so neat to get to, one of the things that happens in racing, especially with jockeys and trainers, is that they become names in the form or in your past performances, and you don't know them, you don't know their story. And so getting to have people on, the other day we had Frankie Pennington on, who's a name that I've seen 100 times. If you watch Parks, you end up seeing Frankie Pennington's name, and and he's ridden some horses that have gone on to New York and some stuff like that. And so it was great to get to sit and talk with him for 15 minutes and learn his story. And he wasn't really involved in racing, and his stepdad, his mom remarried when he was a teen, and his stepdad was a trainer in Cleveland. And so that was how he got introduced to it. It's just, it's crazy to think. He's had a very successful career thus far, and it's crazy to think that, if things didn't work out how they did, he might never have got into horse racing. So I love hearing people's stories. I think, everybody has a story, and that's the beauty of, as you said, getting to talk to all the different people in the sport. But there's certainly a connectivity that runs with everybody in the sport, and it's love of the sport and love of the betting and, and all that kind of stuff.
So let's kind of go back to the beginning now. When did you get your first job calling the races? Because you've been a fan of the races, it seems like forever, and you just kind of like a sports fan in general. Mm-hmm. And so what was your first job calling the races, and then how did it go from there?
Yeah, my dad was a gambler, so we used to go to Longacres when I was a kid, so I got to that was kind of how I got exposed to horse racing. We weren't, in the sport, so to speak. He was just a bettor, and I would go out on Sundays with him. My mom would give me $20 every Sunday, so there was 10 races, so I could do $2 a race. And I've told the story before, but I always think it's funny. What would happen is we'd get there. My dad would say, "Here, give me the 20, and I'll make your bets, each race throughout the day." And so one day, I think it was the Space Needle Handicap, I think, and it was Captain Condo and Grandstand Gabe, two of my favorite horses ever. And they ran 1-2. And I told my dad I want a $2 exact, a Condo with Grandstand Gabe. And it hit for like $44 because Grandstand Gabe was a big long shot. So I went to my dad. I'm like, "Hey, Dad, can I have my money?" And he looked at me. He's like, "I'll get it to you on Wednesday." He was just taking the 20 and booking my action every day. Yeah. And so I learned that you need to definitely make your bets with a licensed, legitimate source. So, but yeah, as far as the race calling, as a kid, I was always Gary Henson was the Longacres announcer, and his dad, Harry Henson, of course, was the famous guy at Hollywood Park, and actually was the first announcer at Longacres. Longacres in just under 70 years, or maybe it was just over 70 years, whatever it was, had only 3 announcers in the whole history of the track. Harry Henson was there for like 30 years. Chick O'Neill was there for like 10 years, and then Gary Henson was there for the final 20 years. And so Gary had this great growly voice, and "Here comes Captain Condo on the outside." And so when I would go home, our neighborhood was a perfect oval, and I would go home and I would ride my bike around the neighborhood, and I'd put my little baseball pants on, my little jockey jacket, my little jockey hat, and I'd get a stick and I'd whip my bike and I would do the calls from that day. And so the race call, I think, was implanted to me pretty early. And then as far as jobs, Vic Stoffer's call of the 05 Hollywood, or not the American Oaks, Cesario. I think the video's on YouTube, and it's it's a great call, and like just the crescendo of it and the horse's performance, the hair on my arm stood up. I watched it in the Quarter Shoot Cafe, Sally Steiner at Emerald Downs, and I watched it at the Quarter Shoot, and the hair on my arm stood up. And I bought binoculars the next day, and I thought, I could do this. I've been listening to these guys for long enough, and so I started going up in the grandstand at Emerald, and I would just kind of practice through it. And then in the winter, that fall, I started going to Portland because Emerald season ended and Portland would begin. And I would just sit in the grandstand and practice into a little tape recorder. And I sent a tape to Robert Geller, who was the longtime voice at Emerald, is now at Woodbine. And he was like real supportive. He just kept telling me, he's like, "You can do this." He goes, "You sound like you know what you're doing. Just keep practicing." And he was just, Robert's the best. Anybody that's ever met him.
Yeah, he's great.
So, at Portland it would have been January of 2006. I would go out every race outside, pouring rain every stupid day, and practice into my recorder. And the announcer there, Mike O'Brien, told me, he goes, "You know what? I appreciate you're out here every weekend doing this." And I was driving 2.5 hours. So he took notice of that. And so he told me, no warning, about 15 minutes to post, he goes, "You're doing the next race." And I was like, "Oh God." And so Portland used to have it wasn't a headset, it was kind of a clip mic that you clipped onto your tie or whatever. And so he put that on me, got me all set up. And so the call the post rings, I do the post parade, and you had to open the window at Portland. So you hear the speakers and you hear the echo. And it's like, when that happened, it was like, oh my God, we're not in Kansas anymore. And so that first race, they went off and it was going okay. I mean, I'm nervous as can be. And I forgot to breathe. And
Yeah,
so they get to the turn, and I'm just totally out of wind, and I'm like, on the outside,
Nothing.
Yeah, and so finally they turned for home, and I took a real deep breath, and my buddy Ben Root, who was a trainer there, his horse won. It was a horse named a colt named Sue, and so I got through it. It was okay. It wasn't for a first call. It was average, but everybody at Portland was like so supportive. And then a couple weeks later, they let me call 2 more races, like just the end of the day on a Monday or something. And then in like late February, Mike O'Brien, the regular caller there, got sick, and so I got to fill in for a whole day. I totally botched the 5th and 6th races. Like, I mean, I remember the 5th race. I remember my inner monologue. It was like a 3-length gap to a horse, and I said it was a gap of a half length. And out loud, I said half length, like I mocked myself over the air. Oh, it was so funny now looking back at it. But I made a tape of the first 4 races that day because the 5th and the 6th were so bad. And I sent it to I had emailed Vic Stoffer at some point and told him I was practicing. He told me that Great Lakes Downs and River Downs needed somebody for their summer meet because this is now getting toward the springtime, and all the spring and summer tracks are starting up. So I sent my tape, and a guy named Greg Boomerai gave me a nice recommendation to River Downs and said that I'd been working hard and he thought I'd be okay. And the guy from River called and they offered me the job, really sight unseen, no interview. I mean, I talked to him for like 5 minutes, and they told me what it paid, and I was thrilled, and I moved cross country, and so I did River Downs. In 06, and halfway through that season, Portland changed their schedule to run more weekdays, and so Mike O'Brien, the regular guy there, he couldn't do it anymore. And so I actually got the Portland job like 3 months after I got the River job. So I had 2 jobs within 3 months of starting, and did that circuit for a few years. And then I left River. I was having some personal troubles with, I have some anxiety issues and depression issues, as you kind of hinted at. And they were kind of really coming to a head in 08. And so I left River Downs and moved home, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then Portland just offered me a year-round position, and was there year-round for I think 7 years or 8 years till end of 2014. And then I went to Louisiana for 3 months and then, and kind of had the same issues going on over there, and decided to move back home. I was out of racing for about 7 or 8 months, and then started with Bet America.
And that's what's great is that you have kind of use the platform also as just this, or use the podcast as this like platform to get your voice out there, to get your opinion out there, for people to kind of get an opportunity to really meet you, to hear you on a day-to-day basis. And that's opened up like all these opportunities now. It's like watching you, seeing, your YouTube channel, seeing you kind of all over the place, traveling across the world, following you on social media has been really, really cool. Just like living vicariously through you. I know a lot of people were very curious as you would travel to a new track to call some of the races there this year. And in the last, I guess year and a half, things have been really, really good for you. So tell us when you got back into it now, you've been podcasting for a while. Where was the first track that you were able to go and start calling the races for again?
Yeah, my last day at Louisiana was about March of 2015. So I didn't call for 3.5 years, I think it was. And so I applied for a bunch of jobs, and I, looking back, I'm glad I didn't get any of them, because I was not healthy enough in a number of ways that it would have worked out. I got very agoraphobic, so it's like I didn't leave the house very much for about a year and a half. And so it was, I knew I had the ability to race call, but I was not well. And that was just going to kind of prohibit that. But I think how I, left Louisiana Downs, not with the most notice. I mean, I think they had like 3 weeks to find someone, and they did. And John McGarry, who they hired, did great. And so it, worked out. But still, you don't want to take a job, move cross country, be there for 3 months, and then leave. And so I was pretty sure for a while that was, going to hold back people from hiring me, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, like I said, I'm glad that it didn't work out. What ended up happening was in 2018, I kind of started pushing myself to start getting back out and living life a little bit. I started losing a little bit of weight and exercising and doing a lot of that. But I also, I mean, I was at the point, where, for probably a year and a half or 2 years, like I was either home or going to the grocery store or nothing. And getting the job with Bet America, while it was so great, it kind of enabled that because I could work from home. And so I didn't have to leave. And in a weird way, it kind of almost fed my anxieties of, hey, I can subsist now without doing it, going out and doing stuff. So I literally started just in 2018, like going to the mall for 5 minutes, going to the mall for 10 minutes. I mean, I'd sit in the parking lot, get my gumption up, and then walk in. And then I had to walk to one side of the mall and back. And then, and just trying to, they call it exposure therapy. And, when you're struggling with anxiety and agoraphobia, which is basically just fear of public places and crowds and stuff. The only real way to get by it is to expose yourself to those situations, and you kind of get more and more used to them. And, I didn't eat out in a restaurant for a year or two. I mean, I'd get to-go orders, like, and even just going in for 5 seconds, like I would just be freaking out and grab the food and then run out the door, And it was not a good way of life in any way. And I was really struggling with it. And, when I started kind of pushing myself to go do more things, took a trip to California, went to NHC and for Bet American, like just started going out and doing more. And in the summer of 18, it would have been like August or September, Pete Aiello called me, and I was doing the podcast, and I saw the call, and I was like, I'll call him back. So I called him back when I was finishing the show, and he goes, do you want to come down and call races for me when I take my vacation at Calder or Gulfstream West? And I was like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. And he told me, he goes, I was trying to think of who would really appreciate the opportunity. He goes, and I felt like you would. And there's a little of connection that Pete and I have, because when I left River Downs, the day after I left, I called Luke Kreitboss and I said, hey, just so you know, I'm moving back home. I said, I'm struggling too bad. And I just, it's not going to work anymore. And Luke knew Pete was trying to become an announcer. Pete had just taken a job, I think, at Prairie Meadows. And so it was crazy because I called Luke from Des Moines. We had just stopped there. It was our first stop on the way back home. And Luke called Pete and he said, hey, you need to call these guys. If you want to get into race call. And he goes, this is a great job. It's 100 days a year. It's, good track, good area, da-da-da-da-da. And Pete, if I remember right, Pete had just taken that job. And so Pete goes, oh, I don't want to leave these guys high and dry. I just took this job. And it's, I think he was like an assistant racing secretary or something. Like he had, gotten a good racing job, but he wanted to be an announcer. And Luke just called it. Luke told him, he goes, no, if you want to be an announcer, you go take this job. So apparently Pete went to his boss, and it's Pete's story to tell, but he went to his boss and he said, look, I had this. And his boss was like, dude, this is what you want to do. Go do it. I'll be fine. And Pete got the job at River. And now, of course, Pete's a star. But I always thought maybe Pete was, giving me a little payback, because I always joked with him. I said, believe me, my life falling apart helped start his career. But so Pete called and asked if I wanted to do that. And I was very nervous, but I got down there. The situation at Gulfstream West, for those who don't know, the grandstand's not there anymore. So they kind of have a little mock grandstand. It's kind of some shipping containers like stacked on top of each other. So you're only about 15 or 20 feet in the air, and it's a real tough angle. But as you're looking into the track, it still looks like Calder. I mean, it's the same as it was before. There's just literally no grandstand anymore. But I remember the first race, I was pretty nervous, and you could hear in my voice, that I was just, scared, and settled down. And it went, the whole experience was amazing. And it was like so liberating too, because the day after that first day, I called my mom and I cried my eyes out, because I was just so happy that I got to do it again. And my whole thought for that fill-in job was, this is a great chance for me to just put the actual ending on my announcing career that I wanted to. Because I didn't think I was still going to go back and do it. And I didn't know that anybody would hire me. And then, a month or two later, Miramati called me and he said, hey, Monmouth wants me to get a couple of names of guys to fill in. He goes, and I thought you might be a good person to apply for that. And I had applied for Monmouth when Travis got it and had finished in the final grouping with Frank and Travis. And so, so I had talked to those guys before. And so I sent them my tape and my interview, and And they called. We did an interview the day after the Super Bowl last year, and they invited me to do the fill-in for Frank because he with Santa Anita now was going to have an overlap of like 2 months on the front and 2 months on the back, and like a week after I got that, after they told me I got it, Colonial called because Joe Byrne was needing an announcer for that meet, and it schedule-wise just fit in so perfect because it was like, I had 5 weeks after Monmouth ended to just hang out and do vacation, then went to Colonial, then had 2 weeks off, and then back to Monmouth, and then down to Calder again. And so the way everything worked out last year was just really, really awesome, and it was so much fun to get to call races and just see the country, and I don't know, I felt like I took my life back a little bit, so it was very rewarding. And
I mean, it's just continuing to go good for you because now we've seen with like Colonial, that meet was really successful, and it looks like they're going to be extending even a little bit more next year.
Yep, they added a week.
Yeah, which is just awesome, and it's cool because I'm even just listening to your show now for the last few years. It's amazing it's been that long. When you said it, I was like, wow.
What? In fact, what day is the show going to air? Gino, do you know?
Monday.
Okay.
Monday, yeah.
Tuesday will be my 4-year anniversary of doing the podcast.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow, that is awesome. Yeah, and you hear when you follow along with someone who's so open to, and this is what, following, my whole life, I was always following along, like with like Jim Rome or like different people in the LA radio market. And you see them like as their life, it progresses, if they grow up, as they, as things change for them. And that's what's really cool about having a podcast, because it's so personal, and you get to hear like all of your journeys, ups and downs. And now it's like things are going so well. It's always easier to look back and laugh at the hard times when things are going well, and things are going really well for you right now, and it does make it a little bit easier to know that, hey, you just keep working hard, and things are going to happen, and that's what you've always just worked hard. You've waited for your opportunity. And one thing I really appreciate about you too is like, you're very positive. You're someone who can like, you're funny, and even this whole thing with the Beemie Awards too, right? It's like there's people that you poke fun at, and that's the whole thing about it, is kind of like a satire and like satiring award shows, but like, you're not negative. Yeah, you're never negative, and I think that's why like you get such a great response, and that's why I think people have really been drawn to you again. So before we let you go, obviously, give us all the information again for this year's Beemies. Give us all the plugs, and like what are you expecting for this year again?
Yeah, it'll be Friday the 17th, and all you really have to do is follow along on my Twitter account. It's at Beemie Awards, and then on my website, which is jasonbeem.com, and because we kind of post the awards on the website, and it's all done through Twitter. So if you just follow the Twitter, what I always recommend for people to do, Penelope Miller thought of this, and I thought it was kind of genius. Is she instead, if you don't have TweetDeck, she would just put up 3 tabs and put one on my account, one with the hashtag Beemie Awards, and then one with her timeline. Because the real fun of it is everybody playing off the jokes, and everybody, everybody's, everybody fakes acting like they're dressing up, and it's much
videos.
Yeah, it's much more than just what's going on my account. So that's a lot of the fun. And the nice folks at Little Red Feather Racing are our title sponsors once again, which is kind of cool. It's nice because I have a little team that helps me with writing and with some of the graphic stuff, and so it's nice to be able to pay them for their efforts and all that. And so and also Sim Horse Racing is a part sponsor as well. So but yeah, Friday night it'll be good fun.
It's appointment viewing every single year. People have a blast of it. I know that people have over the last couple of years set up parties. They have gatherings. People get together and kick back, and they have everyone puts their pictures of what they're doing. They're sitting back. This will be Milo's first Beemie Awards, and we will be taking it in from Dallas, Texas. So we'll be following along. We'll be on a different time, so it'll be a little later than normal for me when I'm.
The time zone every time is like the biggest controversy, because the people back east get annoyed because if it goes till 11 o'clock or whatever, and they want to go to bed, and the people out west miss the red carpet because they're just getting off of work. So it's kind of a hard thing to figure out. I feel like the NFL's pain when they try to schedule these games, because somebody's always going to be pissed off.
And then give us your plugs for the podcast one more time.
Yeah, it's just the Jason Beem Horse Racing Podcast, brought to you by Twin Spires. If you just search my name on Apple or Stitcher or Spreaker, any of those, all the same places they probably find you, Gino.
And we're going to get that YouTube channel up this year also too. You just search Jason Beem on YouTube.
Yeah, that's the YouTube. I appreciate you saying that. I'm trying to work on my YouTube channel because I love to do like little videos of my travels and stuff. And so like the podcast won't ever be on there, but it's, I go visit all these racetracks and see all these places. It's kind of fun for me just to document it, but it's also fun when people get to enjoy the videos. So yeah, if you just search my name on YouTube, you can find it and smash that subscribe button.
Awesome, Jason. Thank you so much, buddy. Every time we talk, I feel like it's not long enough and it's not often enough. So I always appreciate talking to you, and I look forward to next time having you on. Or if you ever need anyone last minute, you give me a call.
I appreciate it, Gino. Thanks so much.
Okay, buddy. You have a nice one. That was our good friend Jason Beem, and we'll all be paying attention to Beemie Awards Friday, January the 17th. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on That's What G Said. Big thank you to Jason Beem for talking some Beemie Awards with us. Make sure to Friday night put the notifications on for Beemie Awards and pull up another tab, as he mentioned. The best way to do it, you follow his Twitter, you follow the hashtag, and you can see what everybody else is tweeting. So big thanks to Jason. It's always a fun night come Beemie Awards evening, which is this week on Friday. One of the sponsors of That's What G Said podcast is Cindy Carava, full-service realtor, and I am here over in Glendora at Coldwell Banker with Cindy Carava. Cindy, how was 2019 for you? Tell us a little bit about what kind of stuff you were working on.
Hi, Gino. Thanks for having me. 2019 was just really great. I had a great year selling homes all the way from Altadena, Arcadia, Monrovia, out to Upland and Ontario just recently. The market has been really good. We're looking forward to 2020 with an increase in home prices about 5.8% this year, opposed to last year where it was a little softer. We saw more like homes averaging about 3.5% in increase in value. It's also looking great for buyers. The interest rates right now are going to be staying under 4%. So if you've been on the fence about thinking about buying a home, now is the time to do so with interest rates still staying low.
And you offer more services than just the buying, selling, and leasing homes. Tell us about some of the other services that you offer and what a full-service realtor really is.
So you're right, Gino. Besides me being a full-service realtor of finding properties for my clients to buy or selling their homes or finding rentals for them, I also have a plethora of resources like handyman, contractors, electricians, plumbers. Like I said, if you're thinking about getting a home loan, I actually work with 2 great lenders that I can recommend to anybody.
And you're all over the internet, social media, websites. Let us know some of the places where we can find you. I know I've seen some reviews on Yelp and on Zillow. Everyone always has positive things to say. Everybody hears me raving about you all the time. But where can everyone else find out information about you or contact?
Thank you, Gino. Yeah, I am on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. And you can contact me on my website, which is www.cindycarava.com, or my email, which is cindyc.realtor@gmail.com, or feel free to call or text me on my cell phone, which is 626-394-6400.
Cindy is awesome. She's one of the kindest and most genuine people I've ever met. I promise you, you will enjoy every minute you interact with her. So thank you very much, Cindy. Appreciate all of your support from That's What G Said podcast.
Thank you, Gino. Have a great day, everyone.
Okay, get your past performances out for Sam Houston, January the 15th. We're going to talk about the Sam Houston card, starting with the race number 1, 25,000 claimers, non-4 lifetime, 6 furlongs, the distance. Let's go to Maria Chuchena, who's coming out of a couple kind of poor races, but I think they're races that you can build excuses for, like Last Out was just in a little bit too tough. Broke well, but got hooked 4 deep and in between, and it was on an off racetrack. 2 starts back in that last group, too. The winner has won 3 of the last 4. And there were 2 other next out winners in that race. Create a Star won an on-2 allowance next out, and Caliente Candy won an allowance next out. The September 20th race was just the first start in a few months for Maria. And the key really is here, you're getting some class relief and the trip. It looks like there's a lot of other speed in here. And I think she's going to be able to work out a really nice trip from just off the pace. This is a horse who's just better on the dirt. Back to Sam Houston, back to the dirt. back to a distance that she likes, where she turns back a little bit, so she'll have a little more bottom. And if you look at those races earlier in about a year ago, I keep saying earlier in 2019, it's not 2019 anymore. In early 2019, like in the February race, he had Sam Houston, the March race, and the April race at Lone. Like, those are good races. Those are the kind of races I'm expecting in this spot, because you can just work out a really nice trip. So let's go with the 3. Maria Chuchena will make a win wager on this one if we can get anything around 5-1. The second race starts the pick 4. What I love about Sam Houston is the low takeout in the Rolling Exotics. 12% takeout in your pick 4, in your pick 3s, pick 4s, and pick 5s. So let's play a pick 4 in Sam Houston's second race. I think the one impressive reward, who got the lead early from the inside but was content with taking back, was the third, tucked inside, was an okay third that day. I think she's a major player. The 2 and the 3 are horses who I have as kind of B horses. I'll play on one ticket, but I don't really love them on the top spot. They're Asmussen first-time starters. I don't think either one of them has like a monster pedigree. And the barn is 0 for their last 24 with first-time starters going a mile. They're 15 for their last 125, so they're capable at 12%. But this isn't like a strength for this barn. And I feel like both these two might be just kind of using this to get a race under their belt, because maybe they're not that quick. And I don't like the firsters going long for a barn who's not good at that. And they're going to get a ton of support in here. So let's go to the 4. Super Legs. I think the last the last race on December the 21st, you can put a line right through that, because that was in the slop at Fairgrounds. Career debut at Churchill. Really fine third against maiden 50s in the mix. She showed good positional speed that day. She broke well, but then 4 others went for the lead, so she got stuck in between horses. She got shuffled. She ended up moving to the inside and was again in between horses, then got caught in the slop last time out. She has more speed than she's flashed in her last couple. I like the number 4 in here. Super Legs. We'll make a win wager if we can get around 5-1. I'll use the one impressive reward in the pick 4s, and so those will be my 2 top horses. So 1 and 4 we'll use in the pick 4, and on both tickets. I'm going to play 2 different pick 4 tickets, and then our other approach will be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8. I do think the 8 African Mo is a little interesting. She's going to have to show some improvement. She hasn't really improved in her 3 starts, but just a repeat of what she's done will actually put her right in contention. She'll just have to slightly improve to win, and sure, maybe she can. She'll need a little speed in here to set up her rally. African Mo. So 4, 1, 2, 3, 8 in the pick 4 on one ticket, 4-1 on another ticket, and then we'll play a few bucks to win on the 4. That's race 2 at Sam Houston. I felt like race number 3 was pretty straightforward in the pick 4 sequence. I really like the 7, Zim's Lemon Drop. Zim's Lemon Drop broke on top last time out. She's a 5-year-old mare. She couldn't clear off or cross over, and then she ends up battling with a couple others. Even after she's passed, she keeps trying in between horses. It really wasn't a great ride. It was kind of indecisive and in between. I'd rather run dead last with the horse who you sent hard to the lead. You have to pick. To me, one of the most frustrating things is when I'm watching a jock. I'm not a jockey. I haven't been on horses, but I do know that you have to be decisive if you're going to go or you're going to sit. And too many times you can tell a jockey gets caught in between where they didn't really make up their mind. They didn't get aggressive. They didn't want to go to the lead. They don't really want to sit. They don't take back enough until you end up kind of chasing and pressing, and that's not a very beneficial trip. The number 7, Zim's Lemon Drop, is the play in here. We'll make a win wager if we can get 7-2. I do think the 9 is the one to beat, and that's Iced Out, who comes out of a really strong race, was behind Sura, who won next out of 5,000 non-4 lifetime, has won 3 of the last 5. Patty O won a 5,000 non-3 next out. 7-9 in leg 2 of the pick 4 sequence, which is race number 3, and we'll make a win wager on the 7. Fourth race at Sam Houston, 5 furlongs on the turf, $20,000 claimers. I really like the 4 in here, Rosie Bear. Let's go race by race for Rosie Bear back since the layoff. So October the 26th, she hooks a horse named Bizarre Mischief, who's a 12-time winner, who's won 5 in a row, and who just beat optional 50s on January the 2nd at Turfway. On November the 10th, over at Churchill Down. That's in a first-level allowance, like a really tough first-level allowance. The third-place finisher just ran third in a $75,000 stakes race at Fairgrounds. Then on November the 30th comes back, and Rosie Bear is behind a horse named Valiant Lady, who is an 8-time winner who had just won her 2nd in a row. The third-place finisher that day, Hyden Street, won next out. On December the 21st was a close-up 5th, in-between horses in the 2-path, 2 lengths off, was waiting for room, moved down to the rail, nowhere to go when traveling best, has to wait, loses all the momentum, never got a shot, lost to a horse named Indibo, who's 2 for 3. Now you go back to the grass, where she's better. 3 of her 4 career wins have been in 5 furlong turf sprint. You cut back, and you come back to Sam Houston. You know, you've won over this turf course going 5 furlongs. The number 4, Rosie Bear, top selection in here. I do think if you're playing the pick 4, this is probably a race where I'll be using a few. A Lovely Charlie, I think, is one you have to use, who's coming out better at Delta Downs and could be really, really tough to run down in here. Back to the grass for Lovely Charlie. I thought the 3, Lay 'Em Out, who comes in from Zia, she is really, really quick. Also, she might be one of the quickest in here, so I don't want to leave her off the ticket because if she breaks and clears the field, she could be tough to run down. The 8 horse, that's Railroad Rosie, who was a winner last time out. And I like the outside draw with her speed. She can sit off a little bit if need be. The 6, Sugarlicious, if you're looking for a price play to include, I think this might be the one. I mean, it's really tough to be too hard on her for just the one turf try. So maybe give her another shot in here on the grass, and I think she could hit the board at a price. So I have this race in the 4th, 4-1-3-8-6. And we'll play the 4, Rosie Bear, to win if we can get anything around 3-1 or so. Really like her in this spot. Fifth race. Closing out the early pick 4 sequence, 5,000 non-winners of 2 on the year, 7 furlongs the distance. I'm going to go to the 5. I don't really have a strong opinion in here, so this is a race where I'm going to spread out a little bit more. I do like the 5, Humor's Reward, who most recently broke on top, pressed just off, was 3 deep, was just outside, moved to the lead, and then tired. And I think his style will put him in a really nice spot. He should have every opportunity if he's sitting just off the pace when the speed stops. I think you want to use the 4. Don't blame Dexter, who might be right on the lead, and if he cuts back and he's able to get the lead on the cutback, he should be really tough to run down. 2 back who's been behind a horse named Sophisticated Bling, who had won his 2nd of 3 consecutive victories. The 6, Bankroll Ben will be using on the drop-in class. I just feel like this is a much better spot for him. I like that June race at Lone Star, and he's done very well at Sam Houston. I think the 4, and then the 1, Miller Man from the rail just feels like a good fit at the level. I don't love the rail, but I do think he has enough tactical speed to kind of use it to get himself out of a bad spot if he has to. And then the 11, Stillwater R. Just seems like a really nice fit at this level. Back to Sam Houston, hasn't raced since September. I really like the 2-back race at Retama. So we'll be spreading out a little bit in here with the 5, 11, 4, 6, 1. Those are the plays for me. 5, 11, 4, 6, 1. And that's the order that I have in race number 5. So let's go through the pick 4 that starts in race number 2 that I'm going to be playing at Sam Houston. We'll play 2 different approaches. The first one's going to be 1-4 with 7-9 with all with 1-4-5-6-11. Then our second ticket is going to be 1-2-3-4-8 with 7-9 with 4 with 1-4-5-6-11. So that's the ticket where we single the 4 horse in race number 4. No real opinion in race number 6, so I just skipped over race 6, but we do like the late pick 4 a little bit, so let's give you our late pick 4 ticket, which starts in race 7. It's a first level allowance, going a mile and a 16th on the turf course. I like the one woulda, coulda, did. I just think he's going to get a totally different trip today than the trips that we've been seeing from him recently, because his last 4 races he drew post 9, post 9, post 9, and post 8. And he just has had, tough, wider trips. Like on August the 20th, he was 3 deep into the turn and 3 deep in between horses. Just never looked comfortable. He was facing, I think, a little bit too tough last time out also. It's a really good spot for him to save all the ground and just hope that he doesn't give up so many lengths going wide. I think you have to use the one woulda, coulda, did in your late pick 4, who should be able to save the ground and make a nice late launch. The 6-horse money trend looks like the one to beat. Just kind of a pretty obvious horse in here, so not to get too creative to talk about why we like this one. You can see he's just been in good form. He has speed. He can sit off the pace. The Remington Park race 2 starts back behind last I knew. I actually really liked it, 7.5 furlongs. And then the number 2, Moorhawk. I'm looking back at the July 14th Lone Star race. I thought was really, really good against the Open First Level Allowance Company. I think just a repeat of that, something similar to that, makes Moorhawk really, really tough in here. So we'll use 1, 6, and 2 to kick things off at Sam Houston. First leg of the pick 4 sequence in race number 8. The 2, I think, is really obvious, Taruka. I'm not trying to beat Taruka. The 5, grade 1, speed, Broberg. I think you can put a line through the field through the race last time out. Went pretty quick. And he's just one of those type of horses who's really good if he's able to clear. He can sit off a little bit, but I think he's just best on the lead. I like the 6, Boss of Bourbon Street, who drew the rail. And, last time out, really no excuses. Drew the rail, kind of got shuffled and was in tight a little bit early, but didn't lose a ton of ground and was able to move right up nicely to second, was dead aim at the top of the lane and had no excuses. He's just better than that. And I think he's a little better with some distance. So the 6, Boss of Bourbon Street, will be on our tickets. We're going to use the 2, 5, and 6 in here, but we have them 6, 2, 5 in that order. Let's get to race number 9. Third leg of the pick 4 sequence. And we'll be using 3 in here. The 3, Gray Hope, logical. And we'll toss in a couple other prices. The number 8 is our top selection, Poderoso Equus. This is a horse who can sit. I really like his running style. Go back and watch the Lone Star race where he sat. It wasn't a race that was a wet track on May the 12th. He has a nice kind of tactical running style where he can sit just off the pace that day. He can sit just off the pace, and that's what he did that day. I think he's, like, when you have that running style, you always give yourself a shot because you're in the mix. You're not too far out of it. Even if they're going slow up front, you don't have to make up that much ground. If they're going quick, you can get the jump on the closers. I think the running style will be huge for the number 8. We'll use the 3. The 4 cookies are good in here also. And the 8. 3, 4, 8. We have them 8, 3, 4 in that order in the 9th. And then to close things out at Sam Houston in race number 10, I like the 10. First time on the grass. I'm just expecting major improvement for this filly who's bred well for the grass and will be stepping up into a maiden special weight. And I just do think the 1's the horse to beat, countenance. So I'm going to use 110, the 1 as the chalky horse to beat, and the 10 as the price play to try to spice things up a little bit. So the way we play this late pick forward, Sam Houston, is going to be 1, 2, 6 with the 2, 5, 6 with the 3, 4, 8 with the 1 and the 10. So early pick 4 in the 2nd, late pick 4 in the 7th at Sam Houston. Best of luck. We're going to be playing a lot of Sam Houston this year because they have good racing, turf course, and low takeout. That's what we want. We want the low takeout. Okay, a couple of your plays. We're doing NBA Jam rules now. One thing I missed last year, I missed talking to you, all of you out there. One of my favorite things when I was on TVG and when I worked for Elite Racing Network, when I used to host a play-by-play sports radio show at PCC, I love talking with all of you, interacting with all of you, finding out your thoughts, analysis on games, who you like in certain spots, what sports topics are ones that are interesting to you at the moment. So we asked everyone last week if you post on social media when I I'll post and I'll ask if you have any plays on Facebook and on Twitter, and respond to those posts with your plays for one of the next few days. If you give us a winner, then you give us a winner the next time, you're heating up. If you give us a winner on the third show in a row, you are NBA Jam on fire. He's on fire, folks. And that means you can come on. We'll do a little co-host of a segment. You can come on. Next time you have a couple plays, you can give out the plays on the show. We'll introduce you. We'll talk a little bit about you, and you'll get a few moments to come on. That's what G said, and get your praise for giving us 3 winners in a row. We got to give a shout out to Doug Dwyer, who had a nice one last week. He had an $18 winner posted at Aqueduct. Well done, Doug. Doug is going to come right back this weekend. January the 17th, Aqueduct, race number 4, big package. Good luck, Doug. Joe Killen. Joey Q says Wichita State over Temple Wednesday night, ESPN projecting a Temple win. Joey Q likes Wichita State. Tom Pogue says Kansas over the Sooners -6.5 tonight in basketball. And then Mark might be back later in the week. Mark Monagura to talk with us for some NBA plays. Doug Dwyer has a 3-team NHL parlay tonight. Tampa Bay over 6.5, Buffalo +150, and Pittsburgh -180. Appreciate everyone checking in. So we'll keep tabs on everyone, and if you give a winner, if you give 2 winners in a row, and then you give 3 in a row, you're on fire. You come on over, and you get to host a segment with us here on That's What G Said. And over on Twitter, Mike D. Money says, Friday, race 1, Gulfstream Park, betting on a kitten from post 5. And then Nick, Mr. Guru Nick, says Wednesday NBA, Toronto +2.5 at OKC. That was Mr. Guru Nick. Congratulations there, Nick, as Mr. Guru Nick, sharp handicapper. He was a co-winner of the bowl contest that we did for the Mike Abadir show. So Mr. Guru Nick, well done. He had 31 straight-up bowl game winners, the 99th percentile on ESPN. Great job, Nick. Congrats on that. And we'll see if you can get a couple winners. We'll have you on in some time to talk about your handicapping and what a sharp job you did in that bowl contest. So, Nick, thanks for your play. Appreciate everyone sending in your plays, and we'll be back in a few days with another episode of That's What G Said. Big thank you to Jason Beem for the interview. Don't forget Friday night, those Beemie Awards. If you can, subscribe, rate, review the podcast. It really helps us, puts money right back in my pocket. If you like to support the small businesses, do so. Because, for me, it's not about money. It's not even about the millions of clicks. It's about getting to do what I like to do on a day-to-day basis and getting to inform everyone out there. I know that some of you don't have the opportunity to watch sports all day, rewatch the games, spend hours handicapping the races. So I can try to help you kind of be the bridge, get some information out there for you, make sure that every time you're betting a race or a game or something, you at least have the right info. We're going to be wrong a lot with our opinions, with our predictions, but we always want to try to give you the correct information, so that way you're the most prepared when you go to make your wagers, when you go to make your fantasy football selections, your daily fantasy selections, when you go to watch sports or when you go to talk sports with people. We want to make sure that you're the most informed and you got the best info. So thanks for tuning in to another episode of That's What G Said.